Howdy, I'm Robert Carter from the Museum of York County, where I'm an educator and interpreter, and it is time for another wild wonder. And this week's wild wonder is the great blue heron. You can see it right here. This is the largest heron we have in North America. It's actually found in North America, South America, and in the Caribbean. And they're pretty big birds, and you may have seen them before. Any place you have some water, you could have a great blue heron, including a salt marsh. You can see they're pretty tall. They're about 3 feet tall, weigh 5 to 6 pounds, which is a lot for a bird. And those really nice long legs, and they use those when they're walking around in the water. They wade in the water, and they're looking for fish typically, fish or bullfrogs, any kind of frog, but it doesn't have to be. They'll eat other organisms also. And they walk through the water with putting their feet in there very slowly. And when they start to see some prey, they just get very, very still, almost like a statue. And they just sit there with their neck kind of curved. And when it's just the right time, then they spear it. Or if they don't spear it, and actually do, they can stab through the fish. They grab it with their beak. And you can see their skull right here. There's very, very long beak on the skull, and you can see how sharp it is. And you can imagine them actually spearing a fish. Now after they spear it, they're gonna have to jostle around a little bit, because they're gonna turn it up with the head of the fish going in their mouth first, and they're gonna swallow it. Really, really cool. But it's not just fish they will eat. Not just in a creek or a stream will they hunt. Sometimes it'll be in agricultural fields, and they'll go after insects, they'll go after small mice, basically anything that will fit in their mouth, they are going to eat. And they actually end up being beneficial because they help to control fish populations and also insect populations, because they'll eat larger insects like grasshoppers. So they are very important for our ecosystem. And they tend to like water that doesn't move a lot. So very still water, or they'll be on the edges of streams and creeks. All right, now let's talk about some of the physical features of this bird. We already talked about how tall they are and those really long legs. Look at how long that neck is. That makes it possible for their body to be in one place and then their head to project forward to get their prey. Another really cool thing about them that you can't see is that they have pectinate feet. That means that on one of their toes, if you look at the nail, it has a little comb-like structure. So it's basically like they have their own comb. And they use that to rub their belly. They have special feathers on their belly. They're constantly growing, and they rub their belly, and those feathers kind of come apart and makes kind of a powder. And they use that to clean themselves. It's like they carry around their own soap all the time. Because when they eat a fish, they get some slime on their body, or they're in the water, they get some debris on themselves. And actually, herons can swim. The great blue heron can swim. They can get dirt on their plumage, and they don't like that. All right, so they're gonna use those special feathers, that special toe, to cause the powder to form from those feathers and use it to clean their body. Really awesome. Now let's look at some of the plumage on the great blue heron. Right here you see the body. It is primarily kind of a blue-gray. That's why it's called the great blue heron. See, it's got a little black right there at the shoulder. It's got this long neck, which can be whitish or grayish. You can see both colors there. Then the top of the head has that black plumage. It's hard to see right here, but the black plumes are very long and go down the neck. And at times, they can elevate those and it sticks up. Down here at the bottom of the neck, notice there are really long feathers. And back here on the back, also there's some really long feathers. Now you don't find that in the younger great blue heron, but it's pretty common with the adults, and gives it this nice little fluffy, beautiful fluffy look to it. And look at this really long neck. Now when they fly, it's quite evident if you look at them. You're gonna see a huge bird flying through the air, 6-foot wingspan. And oftentimes you notice the head is right up against the body. And that's because they curl their neck up into an S shape whenever they fly. Now, the great blue heron typically nests just once during the year. And it starts off with a male arriving at the nesting area. Unlike a lot of herons, they don't put their nest near the ground. It's usually 15 to 30 feet high in a tree, sometimes even higher. And the male gets there first and finds an old nest where he will stand and do his display, or sometimes he'll have to start building a nest, and then he'll display at the beginnings of his nest. After he finds a mate, then they may work on that nest to make sure it's just the right structure to support their family. And then, they're gonna raise a family, and both the male and female contribute to all parts of rearing their offspring. And typically, herons do not nest alone. They like to nest in what's called a rookery. Okay, so there will be several to sometimes hundreds of herons that nest in the same area. And this is a great way to confuse predators, because if a predator comes in looking to eat a heron chick, it's going to be hard to pick out one heron chick when there's thousands of them. Okay, so that's a defense mechanism that they're going to use. So until our next Wild Wonder, get out there and explore your Carolina world.